Okay, so hello everyone. So today we'll be presenting our Freedom of Expression Transmedia project. So it was created by Mira, Eugenia, Nadej, and myself. And we'll start with Nadej giving you a little introduction on who we are.
Hi, we are Centitude Productions. We are a group that seek to convey compelling, thought-provoking stories across a various story universe. As humans, we tell stories in different ways, usually to explain or illustrate something, to persuade someone, or to amuse or entertain. It is how we make sense of the world and communicate our understanding to others. Our minds may be able to take an isolated fact and random events, but what we long to do innately is to tie things together, which is why we use transmedia storytelling to craft complex, interconnected narratives that immerse our audience into a topic, enabling them to get the most out of an experience by connecting them with the media that best conforms to their consumption preferences. We believe that transmedia storytelling will be the new forward to educate young generations about certain issues and topics. We are driven to speak about serious issues such as free speech, which the pandemic has reinforced the importance of how it is in modern society. This has sparked us to produce our first captivating story universe, Free Expression.
Okay, so now I'll be talking about the project itself. So the project is entitled Free Expression. And this is why it's relevant. So despite the widely understood virtues of freedom of speech and the propagation of knowledge channels, the ideal of freedom of speech has never been more under attack than it is now. Authoritarian governments are tightening their grip on the internet, and countries like Thailand and Philippines are also tightening their internet censorship laws. And then justified or not, sitting politicians are also attacking the credibility of the media, which is a key pillar of freedom of speech. On a social level too, cancel culture is creating an environment where individuals and companies alike are increasingly afraid to speak their voice and give out their genuine opinions. And so these movements show the importance to discuss freedom of speech to younger audiences. And now on the project, so despite mostly having negative effects on society, the COVID-19 pandemic has reinforced the importance of freedom of speech in our society. So whether that's because of the discontent with how the pandemic's been dealt with, or a lack of interaction, people have really understood the importance of being able to speak your mind freely. And so this project seeks to highlight this importance to younger audiences who are often unaware of the role that freedom of speech has in furthering many societal and democratic functions. So through transmedia narratives, we'll explore the different concepts that fall under the umbrella of freedom of speech. And these include, but are not limited to, censorship, self-censorship, and cancel culture. And one of the key aspects of our project is that it's transmedia. So what does that mean? That means that it will integrate different medias to create a complex and tied narrative. So as a whole, freedom of speech is a very complex issue and it's multidimensional. Therefore, any attempt to investigate the issue should do so with a matching level of complexity. And we feel that a transmedia approach is the only way to really achieve this successfully. So our exhibition will tackle the concept of freedom of speech through film, literature, poetry, and theatrical performances, as well as radio to give audiences a deep understanding of the issue. The accumulation of media that makes up our transmedia exhibition will necessitate that the audience piece together the different contexts and develop their own stance on freedom of speech. And so this will require the audience to move from a typical consumption pattern, which is where everything's given to them, and become active participants. The project will have different entry points for different consumers, so drawing each consumer into the debate and the discussion through their preferred media. And the free-flowing nature of the exhibition will also allow each consumer to craft their own experience according to the development of their understanding and interests. So consumers will shape the message of the exhibition as well as what they take away from it. And now Nadej will be talking about the target audience. So Nadej.
So I'll be talking about our target audience. Although free expression stories can appeal to everyone, Centitude Production aims to target the story universe to a specific audience of young adults, to students particularly, those ending high school, as we feel that some aspects might be difficult to digest and not appropriate to people younger than 18 years old. So who is our audience exactly? Members of the Generation Z are loosely born between 1995 and 2010. They are true digital natives, and from the earliest youth, they have lived with the internet, social networks, and mobile systems. The context has produced a hypercognitive generation, very comfortable with collecting cross-references, many sources of information, and integrating virtual and offline experiences. They are a generation of self-learners and are also comfortable absorbing knowledge online than traditional institutions of learning. Experiences are more meaningful to them, and they prefer to spend time on experiences that enrich their everyday lives. This is why we believe that creating one-of-a-kind of exhibition experience would hopefully attract a broad audience of Generation Zers. So now I'll be talking about who our target market is. So our target market in which we want to promote our story is Brussels, Belgium. Brussels is one of the best cultural hotspots in Europe. The combination of supportive networks, international mindedness, and the location is hard to beat, and their cross-cultural views make for opportunities to expand into global markets. Known as the capital of Europe, its significance as a center of international governance and businesses make Brussels a truly global city. According to the 2015 World Immigration Report, 62% of the city's residents were born in different countries and the second and third generation of immigrants. Additionally, Brussels offers easy access to other European hubs. Through the interactive qualities of our exhibition, input from a diverse range of participants will allow for a global perspective on the issues that has the potential to be exceeded into other regions and countries. Not only is Brussels a great location for business, it is a great country that provides education to all. This makes it a great market to educate and open a discussion to students on their rights to freedom of speech. Current demographics from 2020 suggest that our target population group of high school seniors and university, aged 15 to 24, accounts for roughly 15.5% of the Brussels population. On a practical level, Brussels has many venues of exhibition, business affairs, and conference facilities, allowing our team to communicate our message to citizens of Belgium before branching to the world. And now Pierre will talk about our educational value of our project.
Yeah, so now, and most important too, probably is the educational value. So this exhibition and its marketing aim to reach, as we said previously, high school seniors and university students. So being some of the most technologically savvy and connected demographics, these young adults interact with a plethora of different information that they have to sort, analyze, and process on a daily basis. And so given the complex patchwork that this information takes, the audiences need to understand their freedom of speech rights to make the most out of the technology available at their fingertips. Our exhibition will fill the gap in the traditional educational system by introducing attendees to a wide range of freedom of speech issues that are anchored in a global context instead of the more local context that would be taught in the local education system. So us tailoring the exhibition to personal experience means that the audience will get a value through their involvement in the media, which will create deeper links with the topic and also foster a greater connection with the subject. And these takeaways are really only possible with transmedia narratives. To further this, viewers will have multiple opportunities to connect with various stories in the world on an emotional level, whether that's through the actual exhibition or the marketing that surround it. And the central emotional selling point is the overall message, which is inclusivity, openness, and understanding. By the end of the exhibit, we expect attendees will have sufficient knowledge of their freedoms to share their views, debate the ideas, and deepen their understanding of the topic. Now, you've probably heard a lot about the project and you want to see what the project actually is. So what is the project? During the exhibition, attendees will embark on a meaningful and provocative journey that explores expression and greater openness and understanding for all. The free expression endeavors to inspire and inform society on their fundamental rights by showcasing numerous stories that could lighten the knowledge and show them the essentiality of freedom of speech.
To further on what Pierre just stated, Free Expression exhibit conveys its message through a variety of exhibits utilizing a range of different mediums. Each one of the exhibition works will be a standalone project of stories that the audience can digest at their own ease. The exhibition provides different perspectives, explores different angles of the freedom of speech, free expression debate, enabling the audience to form their own opinions. The free expression exhibition is portrayed through compelling visuals, films, interviews, and videos. Audio is also included in our thought-provoking exhibition, allowing time for the off-screen as well. Photography is also included in the exhibition, being one of a few mediums that graphically depicts key moments of the history of freedom of speech in the past and our present time. Additionally, to engage the audience in a more fun and impressive way, we have included a theater performance. The audience can also engage in our interactive debate webisode show and express their own thoughts and opinions freely. And the next slide will be talking about our video montage, Ignite the Fight, which will be used to promote our exhibition. So this is where we'll be taking the break to show our Ignite the Fight video montage. The video montage will show a ground of our project in modern and historical context, allowing for a further understanding of the topics and what it means to be different people. Placing an emphasis on the wide range of modern topics, the video also explores freedom of speech in a historical context.
Consensus is not a weakness. It's really where our founders down the road there thought it was the only way we could govern. It was necessary. It was designed the way the Constitution sits. It requires consensus. You know?
Oh, they're very concerned back there. The fake news, they are so concerned. Melania, you don't know too much about them. You've seen enough. But they are very unhappy. You know what's happening, don't you? You see what's happening?
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed.
On the other side of the fence, behind state and local police officers, counter-protesters defended another vision of America.
Yet this is her yesterday. Yes, that's her wearing the American flag around her waist.
Did you ever hear that old saying about the lawyer who represents herself as a fool for a client?
Knelt during the national anthem at the Niners LA Rams game on Monday night. Teammate Eric Reed joined him, and players on both teams raised.
Election has been building for days. Donald Trump is refusing to concede, and his supporters are right behind him.
Our voice will be heard. These people didn't come to Washington for nothing. We stand up and fight for what we want, and we want Trump in the White House.
Officers also using tear gas to try to dispel people who were protesting against police brutality.
We are not here to march on white people, Italian people, black people, Spanish people. We are here to stand together to march against racism.
People are angry. They're angry that we were silenced, in this case, about women being silenced and women having violence against them.
So what? We're just going to cancel Dr. Seuss books just because they're racist?
Freedom on a fundamental level is everything this society builds itself on. In that every right, every constitution, even this conversation that we're having right here, is allowed because we can communicate freely.
Okay.
And so if you start to limit that, if you start to degrade that, you start to degrade everything else in,
I'm afraid I'm going to have
society.
to limit this.
Yeah, so the next piece we're going to be talking about is the Vox Pop, which we've entitled We the People. And so this Vox Pop explores local opinions in response to various freedom of speech questions. So here it goes. This is how we describe it. So we are the people. We have the right to voice our opinions, say what is on our mind, and communicate with others to make this universe a place where everyone's voice is heard. We the People is a virtual Vox Pop that explores what freedom of speech means to different people, exploring how different people exercise their rights to free expression. We've done this through 5 different questions. The first one being, how do you define freedom of speech? The second one, how important is freedom of speech to you and why? The third one, do you feel young adults can exercise free speech or is it limited? The fourth one being, have you ever been in a situation where you weren't able to speak freely? And the fifth one and final question is, do you know what your rights and limitations are when it comes to freedom of speech? So this piece is relevant to the project as it provides the audience with context by shedding light on the different points of view that different people in the local community have about the above set of questions. And so armed with a better understanding of the perceptions on the issue, the audience will have an easier time empathizing and understanding the different points of view that are explored during the rest of the exhibit. So now we'll show you the actual Vox Pop.
Interesting. So according to me, freedom of speech is something that it's a right that we're all given, and I think one can exercise or not exercise depending on their judgment. Oftentimes I think it's overestimated, and sometimes I think it's underestimated. I think it very much depends on one's basically one's actions and what you've achieved with your actions. So if your actions have brought you to a great audience, for instance, if you have a great following on social media, for instance, then freedom of speech has a big purpose and it can help make an impact. But if you're just a lady down the street and that just makes, and you're very much entitled and you're very free in your speech, then you're simply, an entitled lady down the street, doesn't have much of a purpose to it.
So freedom of speech is me having to say whatever it is that is on my mind without the fear of being silenced, captured, tortured, worse, killed for my opinions. So I think that's freedom of speech. When that's what comes to my mind when and when you talk about freedom of speech, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is the government. Yeah. So it's me having to say, however bad it is, it's me having to say what I think about a situation without the fear of being silenced.
It is very important to me because it's very important to me for a number of reasons. Let me explain. In Morocco, it's a bit different. It's not like here. And I'm from Morocco, right? So there, it's not a restricted limit of freedom of speech. It's very open. You can say whatever you want, but there's a certain line. So you can't, say something against the monarchy or disrespect the king or the royal family, etc. So a lot of people are not happy with that. So in a sense, that's why I think it's really important, because the freedom of speech is super important to change, because you cannot change unless, or you can't cause change unless you speak out about something and say that it's wrong. So yeah.
So I think it's very important. However, I do think that freedom of speech needs to have limits, in the sense that it is important to have freedom of speech as long as you do not disrespect others or create fear in others, to have hate speeches, basically. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I see.
It depends on the area they come from, on what area, like it is on a region they come from. If we talk about the Western region, chances are that young people have freedom of speech. Well, I would say 95%, you know, with the era of social media, everyone can say what they want. I remember I was watching something and someone on Twitter and someone is saying, you know, people are really bold on Twitter because I'm behind a screen and I can type so I can say anything, however mean, because you don't know who I am, you probably never meet me, so I'm really bold. I'm like, you know. And then when it comes to certain regions, it's actually a problem. You know, there are people who don't have as much freedom of speech, you know, for fear of being silenced in very many different ways. And then there's some regions who actually don't have social media or have limited access to social media. So I guess it depends on the region people you come from.
I've only been here for a short time, so I can't really speak on behalf of those who are here before me or like much longer than me, but I'd say yes. Like I haven't had any incidents where like I wasn't able to like speak like freely or just express my opinion. So for the time being, I'll say yes.
I was always able to speak my mind, but I maybe did not necessarily speak it as in a blunt way as I would have had I not had certain, subordinations of power, had I not had to, you know, fit my ideas within a context. So for instance, it can be, and even for instance, I love virtual. So online, you don't necessarily want people to know, you know, that every little thing about your personal life. So you just, you know, try to shift your opinions and just try to make them, you know, make sure that the core of your opinions goes through, but you don't necessarily have to be 100% open and 100% honest in the way you would normally express those opinions. You know, with my sister, I'm a lot more direct than I am with my teacher.
So like selectively sharing with different people so like always being truthful, but then choosing how far you go into your explanation depending on the person you're with.
Yes, you know, my mother used to say, there is nothing you can say in a good manner. You can always say everything that you want to say, but there's always a polite way of saying it to where you don't hurt, you know, everybody else's feelings, or to where you don't have it imply negative, you know, things on yourself for having said what you did say.
Yes, I have been in that situation, and it's very it's a feeling of helplessness. You know, you're helpless. You see things and you cannot exactly say them. You can't speak on it because probably you don't have the ability to, or you're scared of what might happen. So yes, and it's a helpless situation. I have been in the situation and it's really, really helpless. Yes.
I think so. Like I said before, like it's important not to hurt others in your speech, and yeah, I believe that you cannot be like, for example, racist in your speech, or like just say very negative things that would hurt others in a very negative way. I think you should not say it because it's better to just be unsaid.
I have no idea. No, I have no idea. But I do know that, you know, online you don't necessarily want to be sharing private, like messages you've shared with other people, or, you know, you want to keep things very general. But I have no idea as to like the exact limitations that we have. I would just think not to, you know, offend people when you speak, or, you know, have any defamation going on. But that's really everything I can think of.
So in general, you think it's pretty free? If you don't know any of the laws, that means it's pretty easygoing. Yeah, I think so. Definitely, I wouldn't say it's as easygoing as it is in the US, probably, but I have no idea. And you think that's a good thing? Do you think we should all be as easygoing as the US, or do you think that having some limit is good?
Well, No, I think there should not be limits. But it's really important to place structures and place limits in mind that let people understand that, how to limit themselves. So I don't think it should be up to somebody else to limit you. It should be up to yourself to know when to stop and how to just sugarcoat things a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. So like people should be able to know their limits and do it that way.
Yes, exactly. It should be a personal thing. I don't think anybody should impose limits on you. But again, in extreme cases, I think it's quite safe to have regulations on, for instance, private messages to somebody else. I think that's really important. I wouldn't like if the private messages that I send to a close friend of mine about another person go to that other person, for instance. I wouldn't like it if there's something that I don't want to maybe share with the world, but only with a person, and that person shares it with the world. So I think it's important to have some limit to it, particularly when it comes to really hurting another person. But when it comes to just sharing your opinions and, your experiences with a brand, reviewing a brand or reviewing a product or stuff like that, you should be very free as long as the other person has a way to talk back and say their own opinion.
And next up, we have the photography room, which Nadej will talk about.
The photographic montage will convey important freedom of speech moments throughout time and place, touching on events happening as recent as this year to some of the most photographs ever taken. Through the simplicity of the presentation, the photographs will stimulate thought for each participant and engage debate amongst attendees. Like free expression itself, we want our audience to explore that inner psyche without being guided or limited by an external rules and limitations. We hope that this exhibition will encourage thought and while also providing context and grounding the concept of free speech in real life events, whether known or new to participants. And next we'll be talking about our radio drama, which Pierre will.
Okay, so now the radio drama is the next big piece of our exhibition. So this part of the Transmedia project explores the concept of censorship, examining views in opposition, but also in favor of censorship, which is a view we don't see as much. Especially in the Western world, we're rarely exposed to pro-censorship views and even more rarely to its benefits. This piece seeks to differ from the mainstream by giving equal importance to both sides, exposing the biases and concerns that arise out of both visions, and this allows the audience to form their own opinion rather than having conclusions shoved down their throat. Further, the radio drama format stands as the best outlet to explore this issue because it creates neutrality. It focuses on the content in a way that few other mediums can. And with this neutrality, we're able to input other fictional characters that draw in non-biased point of views and really have make sure the other characters have to input their thoughts. So this is how we describe the piece. So it's imagine a world in which a new scary media law is enforced upon us. What can we do and what can we not do? Senator Ben Wrigley, an editor of the New York Times, and Chloe Davy have a heated deliberation on the impact of this new law and what it can do on society. And so this takes the form of a radio program called The State of Our Nation. And so this is where we play, now we'll play you the radio drama.
You're back listening to 93.1 KHJ, LA's prime news radio station. In the latest installment of our weekly show, The State of Our Nation, we discuss freedom of speech and specifically the new media appropriateness law introduced by Senator Ben Wrigley of Kentucky. Wow, that was a mouthful. But debating the topic today, we have Senator Ben Wrigley himself and our esteemed colleague of the New York Times and fierce opponent of the new law, Michaela Davy. You probably read or heard of her now viral open editorial she wrote for the front page of the New York Times last week, where she discusses the implications of this new law. Mrs. Davy, Mr. Wrigley, welcome. We're glad to have you on today.
Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. Thanks for having me on today.
So we have a lot to go over today, so I propose we get started straight away. So first, Mr. Wrigley, could you please explain to our listeners what your proposed bill is about?
Of course, I'd be more than happy to do so. In brief, given the environment of fake news and bias we live in, it's becoming increasingly hard to discern fake news from real news. This bill would fund the creation of a new agency whose key undertaking would be to ensure that the news circulating on our internet and our nation's print media is factual, blocking and removing content that doesn't fall under the guidelines, controlling internet crime, and reducing the spread of misinformation overall. It's simple, it's harmless, and it makes our world trustworthy again.
Thank you for that summary, Senator Wrigley. Now I was hoping that Mrs. Davey could give our listeners a quick read of the core of her op-ed, refresh those who have read it, and enlighten those who haven't. Mrs. Davey, off you go.
Definitely, and I prefer it if you call me Michaela, though. Do you have a copy of the op-ed? I don't know it by the top of my head.
Oh yes, of course. Here it is, Mrs. Davey. Michaela, the floor is yours. Off you go.
I'd like to facilitate this reading by putting forward that freedom of the press and speech are essential to the working of a true democracy. Threatening the very concepts of freedom and of the press and speech are a step too far reaching censorship, which would threaten our rights and all the democratic process of our country. Without further ado, here's a passage of my open editorial for the New York Times. Freedom of the press and freedom of speech are vital to ensure the process of democracy. They are the gears of democracy. Remove all the gears and the whole machine goes to a halt. In this idea form, the free press informs people on their voting prospects, exposes unheard truths, holds the powerful accountable, and stands as a platform for those who want to talk, to share, to express themselves. Without a freely standing press, the people will lack the ability to explore all sides of the issue, hear the voices of the marginalized and disadvantaged, but most appalling, will be able to make an informed choice on political matters that have potential to affect our collective futures. The ratification of such laws only acts as a stepping stone for one more significant and graver infringements on our freedom of all Americans, a glimpse of what is to come. One can only begin to fathom our country's running without a free press as a place with no accountability for governmental malpractice, a complete loss of the fourth estate power to question and assure accountability, thus enabling a reprobate and unrestrained government body. In short, that's it. A grave attack on our personal freedom, the freedoms of the press, and the standing of the American democracy.
Well, if I may interject, I think the basis of your editorial is completely false. While the world you did pick does seem truly atrocious, it's not the America that will exist under this law. The new law will do quite the opposite, in fact. It's not censorship, if anything. It furthers the strength of our democracy, ensuring that the content shared on the interweb reflects the values and true standing of our country, only removing content that has no right to be there in the first place.
And Senator, what are the values of that America?
Well, that's quite simple. Truth, patriotism, and solidarity.
Interesting that you omitted freedom from your list, Senator Wrigley.
Well, I take that as a given. I didn't think it was necessary to mention.
I was hoping you could clarify how suppressing freedom of expression conveys the principle of freedom then.
Well, shouldn't the host be the one giving the questions?
Yes, but it so happens I have the same question.
Okay, as you wish. Sometimes rules and limitations are necessary to ensure that the limitation of a bad and the propagation of a good. For instance, taxes are an obligation we have, but it's not because you're forced to pay taxes that you're not a free individual. It furthers what we can do as a group. And the same goes for freedom of speech. Within a framework of suppression of false information, citizens will be able to live freer and more comfortable lives.
Thanks for the clarification, Senator. But notwithstanding the intentions, censorship is always bad. A bad that I believe cannot be justified, no matter the adjusted properties. Further, the determination of what counts as fake news or not placed in the wrong hands could quickly turn into greater steps into our freedom of expression, which is why I should find this law unjustifiable and unacceptable, doing all in our collective abilities to prevent its ratification. I find it baffling that one could even propose such amendment, and I hope listeners will understand the implications it carries.
At this point, your denial of this law's benefits just boil down to pure ignorance. I'm sure you can agree that the truth is not subjective, and therefore concerns of interpretation should be null.
If only that were true. Can I ask you a question, Senator?
Oh, certainly.
As you said a mere second ago, truth is not subjective.
It isn't.
So, can you explain that as recently as November, your party could not come to the consensus of whether the 2020 election was won fairly or not, when reliable sources points to the fact that it was?
Well, that's a question of interpretation.
That's not a question of interpretation, only a question of censorship, showing how quickly this law can and will turn into a wide-reaching censorship. Censorship of people, censorship of the press, censorship of the country. Enact such legislation, and the only few legislative steps away from being on the same level of freedom as China. Something I personally wouldn't see as a positive. Full freedom of speech is the only way to allow an institution to be questioned, for individuals to have their rights maintained, and keep power-hungry politicians like yourself accountable for their actions.
Well, if you think that institutions like yours, Mr. Davey, are not already censoring, you are wrong. You are. You're engaging in self-censorship, arguably even worse. Not only do you refrain from sharing pertinent news with your audience, you're actually bowing to censorship rules of other countries like China. I know for a fact that your institution, along with plenty of others, would not dare to release content that would risk triggering or angering Chinese censors. Now, would you?
You are wrong and couldn't be more wrong. As an institution, we are based on principles of free speech and freely publish all news we consider pertinent. As conveyed in our motto, we publish all news that fits to print. At no point in time have we ever censored any of our journalists and never planned on doing so. We have published countless pieces on censorship in China, human rights abuses on the Uyghurs, and predatory trade practices. We are proud of our work and what it represents, and will continue to publish such work despite the consequences it might have.
Sure, but I'm not sure that some of your ex-writers like Barry Weiss will say the same thing. If I can remind you, she felt that there was no other option for her to resign because of the internal attacks she got from having different views from the ones your organization carries. I'm certain listeners didn't know that about your organizational practices, did they? I mean, your agenda is more governed by Twitter threads and the opinion of the liberal elite than journalistic vision or righteous narrative. I wouldn't call that journalistic integrity, would you?
That's an isolated incident. There is no proof that that ever has happened. The only thing you're going on is Barry Weiss' resignation letter. She worked for 2 years, and I can assure that none of our journalists from our sister institutions have ever been censored.
Wow, that's interesting. Have you ever heard of James O'Keefe's Project Veritas?
Yes.
Then you must have heard what Charlie Chester said just last week about censoring stories that do not follow certain narratives, right? Well, if you don't, CNN does not allow running of factual stories about hate crimes that didn't follow the Black Lives Matter narrative. They've been trying so hard to push over the past 6 months or so. Am I mistaken again? Is this an isolated incident too? Because it sure does sound like censorship to me.
Well, this has been an interesting conversation so far. It seems like a good time to cut to a word from our sponsors. When we return, we'll be taking calls from our audience. So if you have any pressing questions to ask our guests, call 1-800-905 and we'll see you after the break. And we're off the air. Now, we have 1 minute before we get back. I'd suggest you both grab yourself a drink. The caller segments that are coming up have a tendency to be quite tough. So yeah, grab a drink. Quickly, I'll go over the rules. So once the question has been asked, you each have 1 minute to answer, after which you'll be cut off. So each of you will get one audience question. Once the question's been asked, you have 1 minute to answer it, after which you'll be cut off.
That shouldn't be too hard when you have the right idea.
What's in it for you?
I just want to make sure people are safe and are given the right messages.
And don't we have that today?
No.
To clarify, you believe that this has to be done by censoring?
Again, it's not censoring, but filtering. But yeah.
Make no mistake, it's censoring.
And get ready, we're back on air in 5, 4, 3, 2. And welcome back to this week's episode of The State of Our Nation, where we're discussing freedom of speech and the new media appropriateness law with our guests, Senator Wrigley of Kentucky and Michaela Davey, editor of the New York Times. We'll now be taking 2 audience calls, each addressed to one of our guests. Once the question has been asked, the interviewee will have 1 minute to answer. Today we're starting off with Martina from Long Beach, California. Martina, off you go.
Hello, my question is for Mrs. Davey, and it is, why is limiting fake news such a bad thing? Isn't this already being done on social media? If it is seen as a positive and necessary on social media, how can it be a negative on the government level?
Thanks for the question, Martina. The answer is quite simple and can be divided into two parts. First, censorship politicizes freedom. An entity such as the one proposed by Senator Wrigley could create an environment where one party could have more power to determine what side of an issue or topic is presented to the people. It limits or totally eschews bipartisan debate and makes it harder to assemble information. Second, and most importantly, censorship takes an upward trend, which it never descends from. Once countrywide censorship is put into place, there's no way to reverse that trend. Censorship may begin as an attempt to reduce crime or fake news, but I can tell you now, it will quickly escalate from there to censoring any dissent, laying groundwork for dictatorship. And Martina, the only way to preserve our freedom is to make sure we don't lose any of it in the first place. Unlike social media, where the censorship is done by a private entity, when censorship occurs on a countrywide level, there will no longer be the opportunity to find other platforms to voice dissent or opinions. This prevents the media from taking alternate positions, enlightening readers, listeners, and watchers.
And that's just about a minute. Thank you, Michaela. Our second question is from Marion, who's calling us from Burbank, California. And the question is for Mr. Wrigley. Marion, off you go.
Yes, hello. Last week I had my Twitter account wrongfully but temporarily disabled, which led me to experience censorship firsthand. The feeling of being silenced was extremely horrifying. So I was wondering, how will your law, which censors, differentiate between false information and genuine opinions and statements?
Well, interesting question, Marion. I can only empathize with what you must have felt. But again, I'd like to put forward that this law is not censorship, rather a filter that seeks to remove false information that will be sorted by a board of employees that will be set by the sitting government. So under an oath of office, our appointed officers will only redact information which can be factually proven false. So accounts like yours will not be removed. As for content that's ambiguous, that'll be judged on a case-by-case basis. So ultimately, it should not pose any of the concerns you had.
And thank you, Senator. Unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today. Thank you to our guests, Michaela Davey and Senator Wrigley, for joining us. To the audience, see you next week for the next episode of State of Our Nation, where we'll be debating the legality of lockdowns and the sanctions given for defying them. My name is Ted Rasp. I'll see you again next week at 4 o'clock, still on 93.1 KHJ. See you next week.
Okay, so that was the radio drama. So next up, we'll go on to the theatrical piece, which is the next major piece of our exhibition. So in this piece, Ted Rasp, a highly spirited novice journalist, finds himself in a censoring game with his money-hungry boss who fails to uphold his journalistic integrity. And the dilemma is, will he risk destabilizing the very institution they both depend on for this journalistic integrity? So this piece brings to the table the concept of self-censorship. And while much of the debate can be held on the benefits and adverse effects of censorship, consensus is quite clear that self-censorship is nearly always bad. It prevents conflict, constructive decision, and ultimately growth. So this story puts forward the idea that morals and personal beliefs should not be sacrificed by a fear of repercussion. And so now we'll do a reading with Nadej of the actual theatrical piece that will be performed during the exhibition. So this is the reading. So scene 1, Ted is alone in the newsroom, frantically working and typing on his laptop. All the lights are out, and Ted desk lamp is the only remaining source of light in the room. Done, finally. He slams the laptop shut and rests his head on the top of the closed laptop with his hands resting above his head. Mr. Flanagan walks out of the editor's office, packed up with his raincoat over his shoulder, briefcase in his hand, and ready to go home.
Still here, Ted?
Well, of course, Mr. Flanagan. I set out to write 2 pieces today, and as of 10 seconds ago, that's exactly a done deed.
Good one, Ted. You won't hear me say this often, but turn the pace down. It's only your first week, and you'll never be able to keep up this pace. Do yourself a favor, go home and relax.
Sure.
Want to try a bit more, sound a bit more apathetic next time? Even the cleaners at the other end of the room can tell you're not convinced.
Well, if it's not here that I write, then it's at home, so I don't think leaving early would make much of a difference.
I remember the days when I was that tireless. All I can tell you is that doesn't last. My journalistic flame burnt out long ago.
Oh, really? Well, I've never been more motivated. All I can do is think about writing. As soon as I watch a movie, and even before it ends, I begin planning my next piece, thinking about what our readers will like, what they like to hear, and what they have to hear. I mean, last night, for instance, I watched 2 movies, both of which had their reviews mapped out and ready to be written even before the credits rolled.
Let me guess. The Life of Mark Twain and The Gift?
You guessed it. And I really think it's some of my best work. Concise, informative, and as you asked for last time, it's opinionated. I hope none of the editors read this piece, or you'll be down one movie critic.
Not so fast, buddy. We first have to make sure someone reads this little paper of yours.
Well, I can feel it this time. I know I've written something good. I mean, once those reviews get out in the papers tomorrow, there'll be a shortage of papers like you've never seen before. I mean, want to give one of them a try? I really think you'll like what you hear.
Not tonight. It's already 10 p.m. If I get home later than I already will be, I'll be in trouble with the missus. You get it.
Yeah, I do. I'll see you tomorrow then.
You know what? Put them on my desk and I'll give them a read first thing in the morning.
Thanks. I'll do that right away.
No worries. Bye.
Mr. Flanagan walks towards the back exit. Save yourself some time. Don't watch The Life of Mark Twain tonight. More thought's been put into my review than the actual movie. Mr. Flanagan stops in his tracks and walks back towards Ted.
What? Let me see that review.
Here you go.
Ted stands down from his desk to stand behind Mr. Flanagan, proudly reading his review over his shoulder. What do you think you're doing? Who do you think you're writing things like this?
I mean, what did you expect me to write? It's a terrible movie.
Well, maybe, but can you recall who produced the movie?
Weinberg Productions, maybe?
That's right. And remember what I told you about them on your first day?
No.
It wasn't that long ago. It shouldn't be that hard. Well, if you'd listened, you would have heard me say that regardless of the quality of the movie, any movie Weinberg named below it is always a good movie.
Yeah, but come on. I mean, this is complete garbage. You can't expect me to write anything else about this.
First of all, don't come on me. We're not friends. Second, as I repeated just a few seconds ago, any movie whatsoever made by Weinberg Productions is a good movie. Can't you recall it this time?
Yeah, but...
I don't care. There are no buts in this scenario. Now you have 30 minutes to rewrite your review before the paper is due out to be printed tomorrow. And if you don't manage to do that, don't bother coming in tomorrow. And I'll repeat it again, just in case you missed it. Any movie by Weinberg Productions is a good movie, and that's the end of this discussion.
I simply don't get it. I mean, I don't understand why you're so keen on promoting this piece of, cinematic trash. Calling it cinema is even a compliment here. I'm not even sure we can even consider this to be cinema. It's really threading the line between cinema and complete shit.
You pretentious little... You know what? A good review on this piece of garbage, as you call it, is the only thing that stands between you and me having a job here. If you extended your research past your little fairy tale world, you would have found out that the Weinbergs also happen to be the publishing board of this paper. Now, if anything like the piece of shit you just wrote, we can wave bye-bye to my job, and so can you. While that doesn't mean much of a difference for you, for me it does. The last thing I want is to be a 60-year-old editor looking for a job in an industry where more papers go out of business every passing day.
Yeah, but what about journalistic integrity?
What about it? Those days are long gone. Bernstein and Woodward are a thing of the past. Nowadays, we work solely on IOUs and nothing else. But good luck with getting anywhere with your journalistic integrity. I wish you all the best on your very short career.
I mean, it's because of people like you that no one reads the newspapers anymore. Nothing interesting to read, no one to trust, and no one with an opinion. I mean, this really makes me sick. You just can't accept that someone with a bit of talent, determination, and wit can get through this industry without corrupting themselves. You're just spoiled straight down to the core.
That may be so, but at least I have a future in this industry. Give it a few more years, we'll see where you stand.
I can tell you now, I'll stand in the exact same place as now. I'm sure I won't be the only one shocked by your little games. I'm sure the Post or any other paper for that matter would love to hear about your censorship games.
If anyone, and I mean anyone, hears this conversation, I'll make sure to blacklist you across the entire industry, at which point no one will even listen to what you have to say. Good luck with that. And needless to say, you don't have to come back in tomorrow.
Well, that's just great. I mean, I was about to take off anyways. And just so you know, I don't need you or any of your media contacts to get hurt anymore. Your sly, corrupted, and antiquated self might have forgotten of this little investment called the internet. Give me a few minutes to type something up and your so-called reputation is gone. I mean, oh Frank, how the tables have turned. And the best part of it is that you don't even know it. And blackout. And next up, Eugenia will be talking about 2021 and Only, our short film.
2021 and Only, a short film that showcases the modern world and its uncomfortable disagreements. Emma, Natalie, Maggie, and Peter have a heated debate about the implications that lockdown has had in each of their lives, reflecting what thousands, if not millions, see and feel every day. As they explore the concepts of freedom of expression and speech, a tenacious force centers the Zoom call. Echoed by stubbornness and some misunderstandings, will the discussion affect the dynamic of the group? Will they be able to come to a consensus, or will the friendship have a long-lasting effect because of this lockdown, and will it be added to the causalities of this global pandemic? This piece contributes to the overall debate by highlighting how different parties have different perceptions of specific issues, but this doesn't mean that any view is less important or inferior than the other. The short conveys this shared reality by showing a discussion that we all have in a regular basis, and in one of its least effective forms, when parties overstep each other and do not consider external points, sometimes even demeaning them and not even caring to understand them. To a lesser extent, the topic of censorship and limitation of freedoms will also be explored in this piece. Shown through the eyes of a group of young adults, this piece will be grounded in the freedom of speech and sub-issues of censorship and limitations of freedom, in familiar context and in close relationships. The setting will be more effective at conveying our point to our target audience, as it relates closely to the reality that we all share in the academic context. The short will help us show the numerous debates that we see in this issue, educating our audience with an intense and rarely acknowledged visions of this shared reality.
Hey, Peter.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Everything's good.
Good. Oh, hi, Natalie.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good, and you?
Good, thanks.
Good. Great.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Wait, whose birthday is it?
It's not mine.
Nope.
Is it yours, Emma?
Come on, guys, you don't remember? It's been 1 year exactly since the control tyranny was set in motion, or should I say the lockdown?
You're so twisted, Emma.
Why is that?
Because what has happened has nothing to do with tyranny. It's just a protocol for our own safety.
Safety, you say? That's funny. Ever since this government started restricting us from socializing and working, I don't feel safe. In fact, I feel so unsafe that I feel afraid of the police.
Look, yeah, the police are only scary if you're a rule breaker. Criminals are afraid of the police. Civil people, like some of us here, won't experience that. And also, work has not been restricted. People are being encouraged to work from home. And socializing still exists. I mean, like, look at us right now, still listening to the drama that you used to put before even lockdown even happened. I mean, like, you sure seem to have a talent for negativity.
Oh, for goodness sake, Natalie. I confess. I had dinner with 4 friends yesterday. Take me to the court in front of the judge. I must be punished for my sins. Oh, the guilt, the sorrow. I am a terrible person. How will I ever forgive myself?
Haha, joking aside, what's your point, Emma?
Her point is that her life is so horrible because she can't have her little social events like she used to have.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it, Emma. My father is a very talented bartender and he hasn't earned anything in months with all the restaurants and the bars that are closed. I don't know much about health, but I do know that ever since this happened, he seems so sad and so empty. He has changed. My house has changed.
Like, why can't he just create a delivery service or something? Like, there can be stuff that he can do. Like, I'm sure.
Natalie, it's not that simple. And you know that.
Guys, I mean, I understand life is difficult, but I mean, I also miss parties and restaurants, and don't even get me started about the cinema, but it's just a trade-off we need to do. It's a sacrifice we need to make.
Here we go again. My time machine worked, guys. Welcome to the Middle Ages.
Yes, I must sacrifice. I mean, we're not killing sheep around a fire. We're just giving up something in exchange for something else.
Right. We're giving up our freedom in exchange for a dictatorship. I mean, count me in. Oh, that's right. Nobody even asked.
Like, dictatorship, really? You're so melodramatic.
It's a joke, Natalie. Geez.
Yeah, such a funny joke. Look, Maggie's laughing her eyes out.
Wait, actually, Maggie, are you okay?
Nobody asked.
Nobody asked what, Mags?
Nobody asked us anything. These laws, this new word just fell on us. Isn't that... Yeah. Anyways, to hell with politics and politicians. Guys, we should listen to the professional. The vaccine is the key of this nightmare. They should hurry up and take control of the situation before those damn politicians do it, and maybe everything will go back to normal again.
Yeah, well, Mags, look, the vaccine isn't a representation of all doctors. It represents the pharmaceutical industry and those like big, fat, wealthy investors. Like, you know, many doctors discuss that the vaccine isn't the only way. Like, you shouldn't put all your hope in one basket.
Eggs.
Sorry?
The expression is eggs in one basket.
Oh, yeah, you know what I meant. I'm always nitpicking.
If you don't think the vaccine's the only way out, what exactly are you hoping for? You know, a couple more years in lockdown, maybe what Maggie's family and millions of others enter poverty? What do you expect? I mean, do you want to party like Emma and forget about the weak ones that die every day because people like her don't care? And I'm so tired of people complain, but they don't come up with a real solution or even have an understanding of the situation. What are you hoping for? Waiting for a miracle or some sort of God-sent gift that reverses reality? Come on, guys.
Are you going to let me answer a question, or are you going to continue listing answers no person with a brain would say?
I mean, it depends. First, I have a brain, but then I also consider that the effectiveness and efficiency of a vaccine has been a miracle. I mean, look what the scientists did. They did an amazing job. In less than a year, we have a vaccine. It's unprecedented, and what an evolution. I mean, come on.
Just listen. Like, have you heard of something called treatments? Natural immunity? You know, 85% of infected patients have treated with multivitamins and anti-inflammatory medicine, and they help their symptoms and their health in total. It helped them eliminate it within a week. Like, why can't we just talk about that instead?
Why not just vaccinate everyone, spare the suffering, the risk, the fear, huh? All right, no, you want people to get sick first and then pop them some pills and see who survives after that. Real ethical. Good one.
What are you, how can you twist an argument? Like, I'm saying that millions and millions invested in a vaccine could find a different direction to all of this. Like, we can find different treatments and find different preventions and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's so criminal that the scientific community, or should I say like business community, is so committed to just prioritizing this vaccine and leaving behind everyone that's already sick.
Oh, wow. Well, it never pinned you as an anti-vax, Natalie. Maybe someone like Emma, but you, come on. I would have expected better.
Joking, right, Peter? And Natalie didn't even say she was an anti-vaxxer. She said that there are treatments and preventions that could be considered before thinking of the vaccine as the only hope. I mean, and yeah, you guessed correctly, I am an anti-vaxxer. Even more so after hearing what Natalie just said. I mean,
Hey, how dare you, Emma? You know that it's also your responsibility. It is our one and only duty in this war. It's our war. What we need to do in order to the economy to recover and to avoid poverty. It's the vaccine. It's the solution the scientific community gave us that our incompetent leaders are failing to deliver faster.
Maggie, did you say we're in war? Do you really think we're in war against the virus? I am so sorry to tell you that if you think we're in a war against the virus, we will never win that war. Because humans have been around for 3,000 years and viruses have been around for more than 3.5 billion years. There is no war, there's no game. And Peter thinking so highly of science, so trusting and so obedient. Do you really think we're winning a war also, Peter? We're not, and we won't. And if we win, we actually lose, guys. It's only started. Don't you even see what's happening? The only damn hope is we learn how to live with it. If we don't, the final race of humanity will be between vaccine doses and virus mutations. It's a running business. We're making your own deathbed.
Oh, Emma, quit being so pessimistic. Like, why are you like this all the time? It doesn't have to be that bad. And look, like Maggie, it's not a question of politics. Like, they are doing their best. They are doing everything they can to save people's lives. The problem is businesses, and not only pharmaceutical ones. Just think of what they put in our food. It's just poison. Like, and then they go off trying to sell these cures that they make completely unaffordable for many people to get. And like, if anything, the governments are victims of this money game. And personally, I don't think I'll be in any rush to get this vaccine.
Well, Natalie, do you realize in a couple of months from now, you won't really have the choice. We won't be able to participate in society without this vaccine passport. Everything you said about the treatments and prevention, I mean, am I the only one who feels that this information was hidden from us, from the people, to sell this vaccine as the only hope? It's a marketing strategy, guys. Come on.
Come on, look, the vaccine is not being pushed by authorities. It's being pushed by the tech and the giant pharmaceutical industry. Like, it won't happen. It cannot. And it will not happen. Like, we have a government and we have legislation and we have a constitution that defends our basic rights. Like, you're just being paranoid again.
No, Natalie, the government have been playing with the law since it all started. We have been in a year in a so-called state of exceptions where laws don't apply anymore. They change constantly. We are in a dog-eat-dog world. And I don't understand why you don't see the problem.
Like, the only problem is big corporations.
The only problem is the government.
Guys, where did Peter go?
I seriously can't deal with this anymore. The only problem here is Emma and people just like her. Come on, guys. Bye.
Seriously, Peter?
Yeah, seriously.
So now I'll talk about our debate. Our debate is entitled Speak It Out. This portion of the debate allows our attendees and members of the debate to debate a series of freedom of speech related questions, polling the conclusions, ideas, and perspectives that they will have gathered from the exhibition. Acting as the second of two non-free-flowing exhibits of the exhibition, it will allow the audience to use the information gathered from each of the previous exhibitions before ending their experience. Each piece will provide different talking points and arguments for the participants to use in the debate. Two hosts will manage the debate panel, announcing the questions and keeping track of speaking times. Three contestants will answer the prompts to their best ability in order to convey their point of view to the audience. And thirdly, the audience will will be active listeners to the debate and participate in voting on which contestant gave the best convincing answer to the given prompt. The question used in the debate will come from the bank of questions gathered by our audience on social media for the live version of the debate. And now Pierre will talk about our multimedia perspective.
Okay, so after seeing all these different mediums, you might ask, is this a multimedia exhibit? And the answer to that is no. It's really a transmedia exhibit. So because the project employs a wide range of media platforms, it's essential to distinguish that this project extends far beyond multimedia applications, harboring a transmedia vision. While a multimedia project would work with a different range of mediums and create a narrative to convey a story, a transmedia project will integrate and combine these narratives to maximize their total effectiveness. And so through the present display of exhibits, which we've talked about just before, we seek to show how each piece of media employed in the transmedia project are linked. And so to do that, we'll go and talk about the layout on the next slide. And so the layout is quite simple. Attendees will enter the exhibition and first be greeted with a video montage, which is the first room which you can see on the layout plan. Once they've watched the video montage, they'll go into the main foyer, which is where they'll be able to access all the other rooms. And because it's a free-flowing exhibition, there's really no direction and they can choose which room they go into after that. The walls of the foyer will be adorned with a picture exhibit, which will give the audience a bit of context for the other exhibits. And so if you look on your left, the room number 2 is the radio drama room, in which the radio drama will be played in the dark room with keywords being projected on the wall. The third room, just above it, is the room with a theatrical performance, where the performance, which we've just read to you, will be performed live continuously, so people can just come in and watch it. To the right of that, we have the Vox Pop room, in which the Vox Pop will be played. Just below that, we have the short film and constructive debate rooms. And so that's the core of the exhibition. Now, once audiences have done their tour and have finished this part of the exhibit, they'll move on to the debate room where they'll have their debate and finish the exhibition. So that's about it for the layout. And now we'll give you an introduction on our social media approach.
Okay, so it's no surprise that the Generation Z are big users of social media. They are the first true digital native generation that grew up with social media, technology, and smartphones. Naturally, as a result of this exposure, they have grown accustomed to the information delivered to them through these channels. Within this environment, certain platforms rise above the rest. These platforms include Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube. It is reported that Gen Zers use these 3 platforms the most, with Facebook coming at a distant fourth. This is why we would focus on our attention on these 4 platforms. And now we have Mira explaining our use of Instagram.
So Instagram is an entirely visual platform. So unlike Facebook, which relies on both text and pictures, or Twitter, which relies mainly on the text alone, Instagram's sole purpose is to enable users to share images or videos with their audience. So it's one of the most used platforms in terms of users and advertisers, and in part due to its size, users expect all businesses to have an Instagram presence. So we will use stories, posts, direct messaging, and product tagging. So in our stories, we're going to put some exhibition updates, so videos and photo updates of the assembly of our exhibition during the preparation phase, and also videos and photo updates of the funny or interesting interaction that occurred during the exhibition, and a Q&A session, so for the audience to ask questions they have about the exhibition and its content, and also to voice their views on the topic of freedom of speech following certain prompts. So in the post also we posted some facts, trivia on freedom of speech, historical events, so photos and videos, landmark speeches, and events on the topic of freedom of speech on the anniversary of their happening. And also exhibition updates, so photos showing changes in opening dates and time. and statistics, so interactive infographic showing for interaction about freedom of speech metrics. And finally, some questions, so question prompts that encourage debate in the comments. So we ask people to comment for debates. And also we have direct messaging, so the audience can send in questions that will be promptly answered by our team. And finally, there is the product tagging, so promoting the board game through photos of the game and videos also of the gameplay.
So Facebook is another platform that we would use, and Facebook groups another way to engage with our audience. Being that our audience sees little interaction on Facebook outside of group and event planning, we will use this platform for exactly that purpose, promoting the event, encouraging users to mark and share that attendance with friends, as well as manifesting our existence in relevant groups and sharing similar messages of the exhibition. On the presentation, we have a few examples of posts that we would share.
Yeah, so next up is Twitter. So this is the next platform we're going to use. So this is mainly going to be used to spark up debates, state opinions, which is really the benefits of these platforms. In particular, we'll use Twitter to share interesting graphics that will link to the exhibition website, where the audience will be able to get more information about the exhibition and the debate. Twitter will also be used in the live debate show, so audiences can send us questions, and in our marketing, but we'll talk about that later. Just on the slide, you can see an example of a Twitter post. And yeah, so next up, we'll be talking about Pinterest and how we'll use that.
So Pinterest, the younger generation tends to fall onto Pinterest for inspiration and ideas. Therefore, we decided to use this platform to highlight our articles and stories that would be featured under freedom of speech searches. There's an example mock-up that we would use on our presentation showing like a search for freedom of speech, and our film 2021 could appear to show films about freedom of speech and our articles on freedom of speech itself. And next we'll have Pierre talking about our YouTube.
Yeah, so YouTube is really the last social media platform we're going to use. So YouTube is one of the leading video platforms, and we'll use it to post any video content that relates to the exhibition. This includes, but is really not limited to, exhibition walkarounds, testimonies, web episodes, live debates. And then at the end of the exhibition, all the video exhibits that we have will be put onto YouTube so people can watch them once the exhibition is done its run. And next, Nadej will give us a tour of the webpage.
Hi, and welcome to the official website page of our event, Free Expression. And this is the homepage that our users would be browsed upon when they come upon our website. So initially we wanted to showcase the event straight away, as we found out that younger audiences tend to like to have information shown straight away than having them search for the information. So we advertised our exhibition event straight away, and also using the marketing tools to grasp them to buy our ticket straight away. And also in the top left corner, we have our home icon, which will refresh or navigate back to the home page. Our menu at the top here, where they can navigate through our different pages, and our ticket icon here, which will lead them to more information about our ticket. If you scroll down, you find out more information about what people are saying about our event. And if you scroll down further, you find a section on About Us, which will lead us to the About page if they click on this icon. We also have our social media, where people will be used to encourage to follow our social media channels, and a section right at the bottom on our contact information, our social media, our address, email, and phone, and a section on where they can receive updates and news on anything about free expression. So if we go back up to our About page and navigate to the About page, where users can read about who we are and what we do, and they'll also be presented with this icon, which will lead them to the event page, because as we concluded here, it sparked us to produce our story universe free expression, and straight away there's the icon there which will lead them to what free expression is about and what the event is about. There's also a section here where they can read about an article about what freedom of speech is, and to know their rights and to know why this subject has arisen again. If you scroll down, you can meet the team members of Centitude Production who have created free expression. And then if you scroll down even further, hopefully with our sponsors, we'll have that icon portrayed upon this section here. We're hoping to partner with Ticketmaster, as that's the platform we'll be using to sell our tickets. We're hoping to be advertised with Visit Brussels, BE Brussels, and Brussels special venues, as they are good sites where people look for things to do and what to know what's happening around Brussels. So we thought they'll be good partners to have. And as Belgium has two different regions, the Flemish and French side, we hope to also be sponsored by them, particularly because they'll be helping us engage with the education sectors in each region. And then again, our contact information at the bottom. So if we go back up to our the section here where people can read about what freedom of expression is, if they click upon it, it takes them, opens a new tab, and it takes them to the article of what freedom of speech is, where they can read about what freedom of speech is and learn about it and be encouraged and gain information on what their rights are and why it's a topic that's been spoken about so much today. So we go back on the About page, we go to the event page through that icon there, or they can take from the menu icon at the top. They will find information about our exhibition, and to book our tickets straight away. At the bottom, we hope to have our video montage, Ignite the Fight, here as a promotional tool to showcase the feel of what our exhibition would be, as we would be hopefully use that room as our first room to in the exhibition itself, for our audience to get a sense of what the exhibition is about. And once you click upon the event, it will just give more information on the duration of the event and location and times of the event, and then lead them to booking their tickets. On each page that has booked that ticket will open to the Ticketmaster page, which we would create and partner with them to have our event posted up on that page, where users can select the specific dates that they want, times, and see the prices of the event itself. And if we go up to the story world, the story world will portray, just like at the bottom of the event page, it will portray each individual stories, such as the video montage, the vox pop, We the People, the photography room, the State of Our Nation radio drama, the film, and the adapted poem itself. So on this page, our users can engage and click upon the stories that we present and read more about it, and also be presented with the stories itself, so they can hear if they did not attend our event. So this will be posted post our event, so people can hear and also share, and it will keep the conversation alive. And they can navigate through down here at the bottom through each different story. Hopefully would have the video up with having our budget for the free expression, so that we can upload and create our YouTube channel, so we can put the links for our videos up on our website as well. And if they go back on the story world at the bottom, people are encouraged to even tell their own stories themselves, as we do say we are one universe, but we have many stories, and people can share their own stories. Once they click upon that, they'll be taken to the page where they can join and sign in, and that feature will be more adaptable once we pay for the website and get it fully functionable, so they will be able to sign in if they're already a member or join via email or their Facebook account to become a member. We can go to the practical information page as well, that where users will find more information about our tickets, where we're selling them, and what prices will they be. They can click on here, which is also the same link at the top here, on the price information of our tickets, our opening hours, the contact for our box office, and information on groups and school deals, in which they just have to email us. And then if they scroll down, they'll find the exact address of the location, that opening hours, and that contact information. And also, to make it a hassle-free journey, there'll be advice here on how to get there via bus, tram, etc., so that the experience is as calm and free as possible, so that they can get to the exhibition with great ease. And if we scroll back to the top, as we said, if they become a member, this blog section is open to members and non-members. Members will be able to comment and share on blog posts themselves, and also post their own stories themselves. And non-members will be able to read on people's stories, such as this young aspiring author who wrote an extract of her book called The New Kind, and all her struggles with freedom of expression. And if we go back onto the blog page, they're encouraged for the non-members to become a member and to join our Freedom Writers blog membership. And if we go to the COVID page, due to our circumstances that we're now facing, we've decided to have a section on our COVID measures and how we would abide to the public health recommendations and expectations Belgium has set for holding events, public events. And this page just provides information to our users on what our measures are and how we would keep everyone's health and safety in mind, and encourage people to keep everyone else's health and safety in mind. And they can read upon how we will handle tickets, how we'd handle our food and catering, arrivals, and hygiene on top of it all. And they can also find more information on the official websites of Belgium, or they can contact us with no hesitation. And that being said, they can also go on our contact page and contact us via there. They can contact us on giving us a remark, reviews, their stories, want to engage on a particular project. We're just open to it all, so everyone will be able to contact us and send us a message via our contact page or in our email, which is showcased on almost every page. And finally, our ticket page, in which we will provide more information for our audience, and there will be an interactive calendar here which will lead them to our Ticketmaster page, and they can find out, once they hover on the dates, they can see this is when the events will be running, the dates, times, location, and hopefully also we're hoping to also showcase the number of tickets left for each day and event. At the bottom there will be more information as well on the prices of our tickets, and if they click on buy our tickets, it will navigate them to our Ticketmaster page. So that is the full page for website of Free Expression, and we hope you've enjoyed your journey.
And now we'll go on to talk about the marketing. So marketing is one of the other transmedia aspects of our exhibition. And so to achieve our marketing objectives, we'll integrate different mediums to create a really transmedia campaign. This transmedia campaign will allow the project to simultaneously engage with audiences through the different mediums, and especially the ones they're most comfortable in, and create deeper links with the topic through engagement and really meaningful and insightful experiences. And so while all the advertising methods will not be the most efficient to reach broad audiences on their own, we predict that targeted advertising will foster quality discussions among some groups of people who will then act as brand ambassadors, becoming more involved with the content and themselves being the vectors of the word of mouth that will really be promoting our exhibit. Our advertising will seamlessly integrate with the exhibition, enriching the experience for those who engage with it and providing more context and understanding of topical issues for those who don't. And so the first portion of our campaign is really a QR code campaign. So for this portion, QR codes will be spread around Brussels with the freedom of speech prompts, whether those are incendiary or thought-provoking, and they'll encourage audiences to interact with them. So once audiences open the QR codes, which you can see on the slides, they'll have the opportunity to react to the prompt by answering it. And so once they answer the prompt, their response joins the walls of other responses, which can be read and debated through a chat room format. These responses are interesting debate starters, but will also act as an active piece of our exhibition. They'll be shown on a big screen, and so as people kind of interact with our QR codes, well, their responses will come up during the exhibition. And so after a few minutes on the webpage, audiences will be automatically redirected to the interactive video series, which is the next part of the marketing. So this part of the marketing will give the impression to audiences that the webpage has been hacked, and so a video like that resembles a plea for help will show up. And these videos portray fictional characters, ideally public figures, in a hypothetical scenario where they lose all their freedom of speech. These videos humanize freedom of speech, shedding light on hypotheticals that are so realistic that viewers may perceive them as being true. And so in these videos, the protagonist pleads with the audience to share his story and discuss their condition on social media to spread the word of their situation. And hopefully, if there's enough discussion, they'll reverse it. So this part of the campaign promotes the project in two ways. First, through the use of hashtags with a project name that keep track of the discussion threads when people discuss the different videos. And then when information is released about characters, it's going to be done through our social media accounts. So that will further the exhibition in that way. And so, as I said, once users interact enough, the captive figure that they've seen in the video will be freed, and audiences will be then directed to the interactive billboards, which are scattered throughout the city, where they'll be able to express their newfound appreciation for freedom of speech. So what are these interactive billboards? Well, by scanning a QR code on the billboard, the audiences will be able to display a personal message that they write, or even a thought or opinion on the billboard itself. After each message, the project credentials will show up, and so that'll be the last part of our advertising. So the strength of these campaigns is that they can also be experienced as individual pieces of content. So for example, the debate platform can be used to just passively read debate prompts without engaging further and just seeing what other people have to think. The video series can be viewed as a singular episode, and the billboards can be interacted with just a voice, so people can voice their opinions without any knowledge of our other properties. And then Nadej will be talking about another part of our advertising campaign, which is not integrated with the other pieces.
As Pierre said, Stated Out is our following marketing campaign. So it follows the format of our exhibition debate and will hold a recurring weekly edition of Free Expression Speak It Out live on our YouTube channel. This will be a live debate and discussion webisode where we would invite four individuals from government parties, influential business people, authors, journalists, etc. And they will have the chance to speak on the biggest issues that we're facing today. Each show will center one topic central to the freedom of speech debate, which the panel will have to debate about. The panelists will also be engaging and entertaining, and they will ensure that we will ensure that members of the panel will give somewhat varying views. Viewers will also be able to question the panelists live from our social media accounts using the hashtag free expression, enabling the users to generate their own questions, ensuring that the debate remains relevant to the audience interest and maintains the engagement throughout the show and throughout the transmedia communication point of view. Questions are generated by users for the debate will also be used during the downsized exhibition version of the show. The transmedia aspect of the shows comes from it being a continuation of the debate format experienced during the exhibition. Given an appreciation to the format, the audience will have the possibility to experience a larger version of the debate and take part online. Following the same framework and set of questions, attendees of the exhibition will be able to compare and contrast their answers to the ones given by the panel. Those who are watching will have yet to see the exhibition, and the debate show in itself will act as a promotion material for the exhibition itself, and sharing our social media accounts, showing our location and the associated board game.
Yeah, so that was it for our presentation. I mean, we hope you enjoyed the presentation and the project concept, and we'll consider funding our project. If you have any more questions, our socials are on the slide. Feel free to contact us by email or by phone, and we'll respond to any questions you have. So that was it, and thanks from all of us.
You know, that you hear that there are debates about free speech on campus, about who should talk and who shouldn't. And people think that's what the debate is about who should talk and who shouldn't. But that's not what the debate is about. You're not even scraping the surface of the debate if that's what you think it's about. The debate on campus is about whether or not a human being has the capacity to communicate intelligibly as an individual or not. And the answer for the postmodernist collective types is that there is no such thing as an individual. And therefore, the very notion of free speech is absurd, because free speech is predicated on the idea that each of us has something to say that's ours, that's a consequence of our unique individuality, not our group identity or the multiplicity of our group identities, but something something that we have that speaks from our spirit, that can speak to the spirit of another and produce a negotiated peace. And that's what's being debated. The war that's going on philosophically or theologically in the campuses is far deeper than you think.